The Space Wolves have been having an exciting time in 2025 with a new range refresh. As well as some new sculpts for existing characters and infantry, they have a couple of brand new characters and units to take to the tabletop. Focusing on the Wolfguard Battle Leader and Wolf Priest, this video will look at the lore behind these new characters, the datasheets and abilities in Warhammer 40,000, optimal leadership options, detachments, enhancements, stratagems with army synergies in mind. Welcome to my mini Grimdark. Looking at both of these characters side by side, Games Workshop have done a great job in positioning them in the lore. Whether Wolflords, the likes of Logan Grimnar or Ragnar Blackmane, or any of the other company Wolflords find themselves fighting enemies on multiple fronts, they will appoint any one of their personal Wolfguard to serve as battle leaders to marshal their forces. Such appointments are considered an honour and a privilege. They'll be given the pick of great relics from their Wolflord's armory to take to battle, and be expected to show the same tactical and strategic prowess as their Wolflord. Since Wolfguard have no hierarchy as such, these appointments are usually temporary, lasting until their designated deed is fulfilled. That being said, should the company's Wolflord fall in battle, it will be the Wolfguard that ultimately choose his replacement from their own ranks. This is another perfect example of how the Space Wolves diverge from the hierarchical structure in place within other Codex-compliant Space Marine chapters. Wolf Priests outfit themselves in black, similar to the chaplains of other Astartes chapters. Their role in the battlefield, though, is different, essentially acting as both apothecary and chaplain together. They're fierce warriors in their own right, and they're revered members of the Sky Warriors. They often live amongst the tribes on Fenrir, observing the progress of its youngest warriors, looking for the next potentials that would test their strengths and join the ranks of Bloodclaws as the newest Space Wolves inductees. Starting with Wolfguard Battle Leader, they have a datasheet that's comparable to the Space Marines Captain with an extra pip of movement. Movement 7, Toughness 4, 3+ save, and 4+ invulnerable save, 5 wounds, Leadership 6+ no C1. Space Marine Captains are, at the time of recording, 80 points, where Battle Leaders are 65 points. The difference is noticeable in loadout options primarily, with Captains having mildly stronger range options, slightly better ballistic and weapon skill in general, and some abilities that situationally could be more impactful. It's tricky comparing the Space Wolf characters to the standard Astartes characters, since generally, whether you take one or the other from a leadership perspective will be decided for you. The Space Wolf specific units can't be led by Astartes characters, and the Space Wolf specific characters can't lead non-Space Wolves units. Whether you take one or the other will matter more if you're running the character solo. We'll go into this in more detail in a bit. In terms of loadouts, the Wolfguard Battle Leader has some interesting choices for you to make. I'll say it now. There aren't any bad choices, and Games Workshop have done a great job in giving you the agony of choice. It'll depend more on your preference, playstyle, and the role the battle leader is going to take on the tabletop as to what loadout might edge another for you. But if you decide to just go with the rule of cool here, and what works best on the sculpt in your opinion, you'll not be left feeling punished for taking this approach. Starting with the default loadout, a mastercrafted power weapon and storm shield. The storm shield takes the battle leader's wounds characteristics to 6 instead of 5. If you want, you can switch this for a ranged weapon, choosing between a mastercrafted bolt carbine, a mastercrafted bolt pistol, or plasma pistol. If you're running the battle leader as a solo character to give the opposition maneuverability headaches or holding down backfield objectives, a ranged weapon will make a lot of sense to allow him to contribute in early turns. The mastercrafted bolt carbine has the longer range and extra attack, where the bolt pistol has slightly shorter range and only a single attack, but comes with -1 AP. I probably lean to the bolt carbine for the extra attacks and range. It's not like either weapon is going to take the world by storm, but the option of tickling a unit from afar with damage to attacks can be enough to make opponents think twice about how they move up the battlefield. The plasma pistol is short range at only 12 inches, but it does have the more formidable profile, particularly if you're going with the hazardous profile with -3 AP and damage 2. The short range makes this loadout more suitable for the battle leader in a unit. I'll swing back to this when we talk about running the battle leader in Headtakers. In his other hand, you can either go with the default mastercrafted power weapon or the Thunderhammer. Both are solid melee options, and you'll just as likely be situationally relieved by your choice as you are regretful. The extra attacks for the mastercrafted power weapon, hitting on 2+ and still coming in with 2 damage and -2 AP, is going to hold its own against most tough infantry. The Thunderhammer is 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, but making up for all of that with Strength 8 to wound those Terminators on 3s as well. It also comes with devastating wounds. Those 6s will go straight through with damage 2. If you're going against tougher opponents or hitting up against vehicles or monsters, the Thunderhammer will be the most effective. If you're shredding through lighter infantry, marines, guardsmen, or bugs, the mastercrafted power weapon gives you the extra attacks you'll need to hit more reliably. Again, no bad choice. But the unit your battle leader is leading might impact on the decision you do make, as we'll discuss in a bit. The battle leader has 2 strong abilities. When leading a unit, Tempered Ferocity means the unit he's leading gets sustained hits 1, and when attacking units within 6 inches of the battle leader, they can re-roll their hit rolls of 1. It's a great ability for any of the units he can lead. Bloodclaws, Grey Hunters, and Headtakers can all put out a lot of attacks. They'll enjoy fishing for those 6s. His second ability, Heroic Last Stand, means that the Wolfguard battle leader gets Fight on Death on a 2+. This is obviously excellent. Before looking at the leadership options for the Wolfguard battle leader, the Wolf Priest comes in at 70 points at present. Their datasheet and loadout options are identical to a standard Astartes chaplain, just with a 7-inch move. Toughness 4, 3+ save, 4+ invulnerable save, 4 wounds, leadership 6+, and OC 1. The Absolver bolt pistol gives them an 18-inch attack, hitting on a 3+ with strength 5, -1 AP and damage 2. So he's not going to be much of a threat from range, but he does have an option to shoot. His Crozius Arcanum is much more potent than melee, with 5 attacks hitting on 2, strength 6, AP -1, damage 2. That's going to be enough to hit hard against light to tough infantry. He's not impressive enough to run solo, though, and as mentioned, you've got a slightly cheaper option, the battle leader, for this one if you wanted. The Wolf Priest shines as a leader with his abilities, though. First of all, Healing Balms references the Wolf Priest's role as a part apothecary. While leading a unit, the Wolf Priest can return 1 destroyed model back to the unit in the command phase. There's nothing not to like about this ability, and it's particularly strong if the Wolf Priest is leading Headtakers, where the value of each model is higher. His second ability is again just flat out great for any unit that he's leading. +1 to wound in melee. Bloodclaws and Grey Hunters put out a ton of attacks with strength 4 from their chainswords. Getting +1 to wound will move them to wounding on 3s or potentially even 2s against most infantry units. That's a big increase on their output. Headtakers, of course, will love this too, especially if you're throwing them into bigger targets. I wouldn't run the Wolf Priest solo for the simple reason that you'd be paying points for 2 abilities you're otherwise not going to be able to take advantage of. His profile just isn't impressive enough to make up for this, and unlike the battle leader, you don't have any long-range outputs to stop the Wolf Priest from being non-impactful. So let's take a look at leadership options for both characters together. As always, if you're looking for the most optimal choice, your decisions here need to be made in the context of the rest of the army and how you're going to use the units that they're leading. Both characters can lead Bloodclaws, Grey Hunters, and Wolfguard Headtakers. For the purposes of this video, let's just assume that you're deciding between one or the other for your leadership choices, but keep in mind both are very well suited for all of these units. Starting with Bloodclaws, the battle leader is my favourite here. A unit of 10 puts out 10 attacks. You've got great odds of hitting those 6s for some sustained hits, and you can re-roll those 1s thanks to Tempered Ferocity as well. And whether you go with a Thunderhammer or a Mastercrafted power weapon, the battle leader gets the same perk too. I'd likely go with the Thunderhammer in the unit as a matter of preference, along with a plasma pistol. They both give the unit a threat that can hit harder against tougher foes. That's not to say there isn't good argument for the Wolf Priest for that +1 to wound, but I do think Healing Balms feels just so-so with Bloodclaws. It's great being able to bring back any models, but it's low-value models in the case of Bloodclaws. In Grey Hunters, the battle leader just about takes it again for me. Everything we've looked at with the Bloodclaws kind of applies here, although to be fair, the individual model points cost in Grey Hunters is higher, so you're getting better return from Healing Balms. If you are taking a unit of Grey Hunters over another unit of Bloodclaws, though, you're likely doing so for some ranged output and the extra utility that OC3 brings. Battle Leader's loadout options means he can take a ranged weapon, and that'll allow him to contribute to the outputs of the Grey Hunters as well. On top of that, he gives their 2 attacks rapid fire 1 bolt carbines, sustained 1. In return, they give the battle leader reroll 1s to wound. I'd likely go with the Mastercrafted bolt carbine with either of the melee options. That way, regardless of the situation, he's contributing with the rest of the unit. Then we come to Headtakers. I'm actually going to treat these as 2 separate units, one with paired Mastercrafted power weapons, one with shields. My preferences vary depending on which choice you make. Starting with the paired weapons, this unit coming in with 6 attacks each, hitting on 3s and strength 5, AP -2 and 2 damage. This is a strong melee unit. They have a high individual points value as well, so healing bombs in theory has good return, and +1 to wound will be really impactful for helping them punch those damage 2 and AP -2 attacks through. So the Wolf Priest is a strong leader here. The Battle Leader's strong melee profile works here too though, and he'll give the unit sustained 1 with rerolls 1 to hit in melee. If you go Battle Leader, I really like the Thunderhammer and Shield loadout. It's a draw here, you can't go wrong with either choice. For the shielded Headtakers though, this is where I definitely recommend the Wolf Priest. +1 to wound increases their odds of success, and with those fewer attacks, there's less chance of them taking advantage of sustained hits from the Battle Leader. But healing bombs for me is the clincher. The shields give the unit invulnerable saves of 4+, which makes them much more durable, much less likely to be wiped out by a single round of attacks. You've got really good chance here of activating the ability and bringing back a 3 wound model with a 4+ invulnerable save that can put out 4 solid attacks in melee. That's great value. It's points intensive, but I'm actually currently building my army around 2 Headtakers units. I run a shielded unit with a Wolf Priest and a paired unit with either Ragnar Blackmane or a Battle Leader. Both units fulfill similar roles in slightly different ways and give the opposition 2 different threats to worry about. They're both impactful in almost all matchups, with the shielded unit being really hard to pick off from range and the paired unit being a nasty threat in combat. Looking at the core detachments and codex supplement Space Wolves for now, both characters will find some of the Saga buffs, enhancements and stratagems really useful. Keep in mind that points for enhancements are accurate as of the time of recording, so you'll need to weigh up anything here with the real world changes followed by any changes made by Games Workshop. Looking at Saga of the Hunter first, the army rules suit both characters perfectly. Neither character confers a +1 to hit automatically, so they'll enjoy this with their units alongside their other buffs. When the Saga is completed, +1 to wound is fantastic for the Battle Leader, but just remember that your final modifiers are capped at +1 to wound when considering the Wolf Priest's native abilities. Of the available enhancements, I do really like Swift Hunter for either character to give them and their units Scout 7 inches, but it comes at a premium for 20 points. Treat it as a nice to have if you get to the end of your list and you've got some points spare that you're not sure what to do with, but don't expect it to be massively impactful in every matchup. Space Wolves are generally pretty quick to get up the battlefield anyway. Fenrisian Grit is 15 points. For a 4+ feel no pain, I like this for a character in a unit of Headtakers. I feel like it makes a solid investment to make them tougher to bring down. Feral Rage is fine for either character for just 10 points for an extra melee attack, 2 on the charge. If the character is leading Blood Claws, this might be a good one to go with. Wolfmaster is only 5 points, and it'll give Logan's wolf attacks and teeth and claw attacks in general lethal hits when those units are within 9 inches of the bearer of this enhancement. It's fun and it's thematic for casual play, but it's going to be hampered by its impact due to the proximity requirement. Your Fenrisian and Hunting Wolves are quick chaff units, and they'll probably be the first to die against most armies. It's quite likely the character bearing this enhancement will be nowhere near them when this happens. If you've got wolves in your list and you've got 5 points you don't mind potentially wasting, go for it. If it triggers, it might be surprisingly fun. Otherwise, until Thunderwolf Cavalry have a leader character that can take enhancements, this one is fun rather than effective. There isn't really anything specific to consider regarding stratagems and these 2 characters specifically in Saga of the Hunter. In Saga of the Bold, the rerolls are going to benefit both characters. Just again remember that the Battle Leader gets rerolls to hit on targets within sinks for rolls of 1 natively. Braggard's Steel is 20 points, but I love this enhancement on the Battle Leader. It's +2 to the strength characteristic of his melee weapons, and as long as you've achieved just 1 boast, it gets +1 damage as well. Thunderhammer goes to strength 10 and damage 3. 20 points is a considered purchase, but strength 10 means you're wounding Terminators on 2s, and every failed save will be a dead Terminator. It's a good investment if you decide to drop him into a Headtakers unit that might be going after enemy elite units, monsters, and vehicles. I like Siald for the Wolf Priest. Every time a character unit completes a boast, you get a CP. For 15 points, this is a solid investment, especially since there are some great stratagems in this detachment. Horde Slayer's interesting, but it's a little bit too situational for me. Probably a consideration for a crack character in a smaller Headtakers unit if you do decide to take this. If there are more enemy models within 6 inches of the bearer than friendlies, you get +2 to attacks, +3 if you've completed a boast. It's 15 points if you've got them spare. but it's the weaker of the enhancements here in my mind, purely because it won't be active in many situations. Thunderwolf's Fortitude is one for your Wolf Priest. When he gets destroyed, at the end of the phase, roll a d6. On a 2+, you can put him back on the table outside of engagement range of enemy units, as close as possible to where he was destroyed, with 3 wounds. I do like it. Consider it the third choice on this list due to its price tag, though. Stratagems-wise, lethal hits from Inspiring Presence is particularly good for a battle leader toting a 7-attack power weapon. Champion's Guidance for hit rerolls on the Thunderhammer loadout in particular, the Alpha Strike for advance and charge for either character are all standouts, 1 CP for each of those. Heroic Resolve is 2 CP, but gives -1 damage buff to your character to keep them alive for another turn. Really good if your character's pinning a more points-intensive unit down for you. Both characters love Saga of the Beastslayer. Lethal hits against characters, vehicles, and monsters is particularly nice for the battle leader, though, especially if they're in a Headtakers unit. Remember, it does stack with sustained hits. Any 6s that you roll on your hits, you'll get 1 extra hit and 1 automatic wound. Enhancement-wise, Wolf Touched is excellent and one of the strongest buffs available to Space Wolves in my mind. Your character gets +2 to movement and can join a Wolfen unit as a leader. The battle leader with the Thunderhammer will add his weight to both variants for extra punch, and his native rerolls of 1s means you can take the Stormfrag auto launchers on your Wolfen unit without any loss to their abilities. His sustained 1 will only matter for the Wolfen with shields, since the standard variant already have this trait on their weapons. The Wolf Priest will work equally well for both units. The units are really like +1 to wound buffs, and they're tough enough to not be wiped out from 1 round of attacks, especially with their shields, so healing bombs is going to pay for itself. This enhancement is 15 points, and it's well worth it for either character to drop them into a pack of Wolfen. Hunter's Guild is good as well, but it's expensive at 20 points for me. After deployment, if you've got a character with this enhancement on the table, you can lift 3 Thunderwolf, Wolfen, or Bloodclaw units from the table and place them in strategic reserve. It's a great ability, there's no doubt, and it allows you to bait and switch your opponent. Thunderwolf and Bloodclaw units in particular are part of your screening and your Vanguard units, so putting them in strategic reserve might not be optimal for the rest of your army. I definitely think it's a strong enhancement, but it is a little bit steep at 20 points, so it hits the bottom of the pile from my end. Elder's Guidance is a real consideration to include if you have a battle leader or wolf priest leading a Bloodclaws unit in Saga the Beastslayer. You can only use it once per battle, but until the end of the phase when you activate it, the unit gets an extra AP for their melee weapons. 20 points is probably overpriced, but when you factor the number of attacks they can put out and the additional buffs that they're going to be getting from their leaders to help them land those attacks, it's a great one for opening up power armor and even giving the unit a chance to take down Terminators with all of those attacks. Helm of the Beastslayer is a great one for a character in a Headtaker unit in particular. It reduces the AP of incoming attacks by -1 from monsters, vehicles, and characters. It's a bargain at 15 points for this unit, especially since there's a very good chance they're going to be hunting exactly those kinds of units. It's an auto take for me in this detachment. Unbridled Ferocity is a great stratagem for battle leaders to give them +1 to wound for a CP. If you've got either character in Bloodclaws or Wolfen units, don't forget Impetuosity for a CP for a D6 surge mood when they're shot at. For me, both of these characters are automatic takes. They bring solid outputs and buffs for their cost, and I'm actually running 2 of each in most of my lists at the moment. I much prefer to run them as leaders rather than solo. Their buffs really complement their units, and lacking lone operative means they are both relatively vulnerable to being picked off. I'd say the battle leader can achieve the solo role if you need someone to hold down a home objective or just a 9-inch anti-deep strike bubble. Potentially, for a few more points if you have them, there are better options from Codex Space Marines for this though, even if they don't synergize with Sagas and Stratagems as efficiently. You could even consider an Iron Priest or a Tech Marine for this role, especially if you've got any anti-tank vehicles in your backfield generally. I like at least a Ballistus Dreadnought in the background for this very task, for instance. Otherwise, you can't go wrong with these characters, and Games Workshop have done a great job in making them feel different, but balanced with one another in both competitive play and casual play. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they'll both find themselves in lists and tournament play. For the fun factor, they make your army feel fun and fresh, depending on how you run them. Choosing one over the other can change the way you run your Headtakers unit, just for example, even before considerations for enhancements and detachments. And yes, their new sculpts look great. The Wolf Priest in particular for me hits the mark with that wolf mask and hood. But who doesn't like an angry-looking space Viking with a giant hammer? If this video has been at all useful, please like and subscribe to show your support for this new channel. If you've got your own takes on these characters, share them in the comments, particularly if you've got some lore points I didn't consider, or some in-game considerations others might benefit from. Thanks for watching, keep hobbying.